and did a podcast, a white podcast. You sat your for almost 2 hours
and didn't leave,
and you talk. And the white folk asked you, was you a professional officer?
Yeah,
we would have never asked you that, nigga. We got respect for you,
right?
And you sat right there and you answered that question so eloquently, like it wasn't even disrespectful. And then I get to sit back and watch that. And what's the difference between them and us?
Okay.
Now I feel disrespect.
Right.
Don't do us like that.
The collision between Rick Ross and DC Young Fly became one of the most unexpected clashes of the year. Not because it involved violence or deep industry politics, but because it exposed a cultural truth the entertainment world tries to ignore. When comedy meets rap ego, pride always takes the first hit. It all started with a simple joke, a few lighthearted jabs from DC Young Fly during a live appearance. DC is known for taking any room hostage with humor, flipping situations instantly, and never letting a celebrity off the hook. Ross, on the other hand, built an entire empire around an image of luxury, dominance, authority, and wealth. So when DC lobbed his first punchline, most people assumed Ross would brush it off. Instead, Ross fired back in a way nobody expected. Instead of laughing it away, Rose responded with a sharp message online, implying DC needed to stay in his lane and questioning why a comedian thought he could speak on a boss's name. That response immediately ignited social media because people recognized the shift instantly. This wasn't just Ross defending himself. This was a heavyweight rapper publicly showing that a comedian had gotten under his skin.
Since he walked off on y'all?
We were just talking to Angie Martinez about that yesterday. We in Atlanta, so we run into him all the time. They ain't never been no hard feelings.
I don't want to say no hard feeling.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, first of all, I don't give.
Yeah, I get it.
But I give a because
try to make
you as a person.
Yeah.
We the type of people that will never bring up nothing that we feel like that can be diminished to your career or anything, nigga, because we some real niggas.
Yeah.
The moment you leave our show.
The culture thrives on moments like this. The clash between confidence and reaction, pride and playfulness. The more serious Ross took the situation, the funnier DC's jokes became, and the more the public demanded a response. Within hours, creators stitched DC's original roast into reaction videos, edits, and memes, making Ross the punchline he tried to avoid. DC Young Fly saw the energy and doubled down, but not out of malice. This is what comedians do. They amplify, they escalate, they push the line. He started aiming at Ross's exaggerated lifestyle, the money flexes, the boss quotes, even the infamous lemon pepper jokes that have now become a permanent part of Ross's online identity. These weren't personal attacks, they were comedic pressure points that exposed how fragile celebrity ego can be when tested. Meanwhile, industry insiders began to whisper that Ross's reaction said more about him than about DC. A confident artist doesn't have to respond to jokes. A secure figure doesn't have to assert power over humor. And a veteran in the game should know that the moment you take comedy seriously, you've already lost. What made the situation explosive was not the roast itself, but Ross's attempt to clap back in a way that felt forced. Instead of seeming powerful, he appeared rattled, and that opened the door for DC Young Fly to unleash the full range of his comedic skill. What could have been a harmless exchange had now become a full-blown viral moment, one that placed DC Young Fly firmly in the driver's seat. DC. Young Fly's follow-up didn't just escalate the situation, it completely flipped the dynamic. With Ross firing the first serious shot, DC understood that the game had shifted and he leaned into it with precision. His response came during a live event, a setting where he thrives the most. Under bright lights, in front of a roaring audience, DC dissected Ross's clapback with surgical, comedic timing, turning the rapper's attempt at intimidation into the funniest moment of the night. What made DC's roast hit so hard was that it wasn't rooted in anger. It was rooted in pure observational truth. He poked at Ross's persona, the lavish estate images, the exaggerated boss talk, the quotes that sound motivational but often feel scripted, the lifestyle branding that places Ross in a world far beyond the everyday fan. DC's jokes didn't expose secrets, they exposed absurdities, and that's why they landed with such force. In comedy, exaggeration is everything. When DC joked that Ross looked like he travels with lemon pepper packets in his pockets, the crowd erupted because it played off a cultural association everyone already had. When he said Ross's luxury lifestyle sometimes looks like a parody of itself, the audience instantly recognized the accuracy behind the humor. Even Ross supporters were laughing, not because they wanted to see Ross lose, but because DC Young Fly is a master at finding the cracks in a public persona and widening them with laughter. Across social media, edits of DC's performance spread rapidly. Fans remixed his roast over drill beats, slowed and reverbed audios and animations. Suddenly, the comedian wasn't just trending, he was dominating the conversation. Ross's attempt to maintain control slipped further because every time he tried to push back, the internet pushed back harder. Meanwhile, fellow comedians, influencers, and even some rappers weighed in, noting that once you let a comedian drag you into a back and forth, there's no version of the story where you come out looking untouchable. Comedians live in the fire. Rappers live in the image. When the fire gets close to the image melts first. Industry insiders started pointing out the imbalance in the situation. Ross brought seriousness to a comedic space, and that misalignment is what made DC's punchlines land so cleanly. Instead of stepping back and laughing along, Ross had created a battlefield where the comedian held every advantage. The more DC talked, the more the public sided with humor. The more Ross reacted, the more he looked bothered. What made this phase of the feud so explosive was that the culture embraced DC as the underdog hero, a comedian standing firm in a space usually dominated by rappers with huge egos and massive platforms. DC didn't need cars, jewelry, or luxury estates. His weapon was the microphone. And in this round, that microphone became the most powerful tool in the room. What made this beef hit another level was the hip-hop community's reaction. Rappers, influencers, and celebrities who normally stay silent on comedy versus rap clashes began commenting openly. Some felt Ross overreacted, suggesting that he should have just laughed along and kept it pushing. Others believed DC was doing too much and should have shown Ross a little more respect. But the loudest voices came from fans who felt the situation reflected something deeper happening across the entertainment world. Comedians are taking over cultural influence in a way rappers used to. For years, rappers held the top spot in dictating trends, memes, cultural direction, and viral storytelling. But in the social media era, comedians have become the new center of influence. Their content is faster, their reach is wider, and they thrive in the spontaneous spaces where rappers often stumble. DC Young Fly represents this shift perfectly. His ability to create viral moments in real time makes him more adaptable than artists who rely on controlled image strategies. So when Ross tried to assert his dominance, fans saw it as an outdated move in a digital culture that rewards humor over hierarchy. This sparked debates everywhere. Was Ross threatened? Was he insecure? Or was the internet simply choosing personality over prestige? The viral hashtag #RossVSDC became flooded with memes where fans sided overwhelmingly with DC. They praised his authenticity, his quick timing, and his refusal to let celebrity status intimidate him. Meanwhile, Ross's responses began to feel more calculated, more defensive, and less grounded in the confidence he's known for. Even media outlets picked up on the tension, publishing headlines about Ross being out-roasted or caught slipping by comedy. The industry perception subtly shifted. Instead of Ross appearing like the composed mogul, he began looking like someone struggling to navigate a culture that no longer bends to celebrity ego. As the pressure mounted, interview clips resurfaced, where artists and entertainers discussed Ross's strict adherence to maintaining a boss image, and fans used those same clips to joke that his image cracked under DC's jokes. The more this narrative spread, the more Ross's team reportedly tried to pivot, releasing content portraying him as unfazed. But the internet had already decided who won the exchange, and it wasn't the rapper. What made the community reaction so influential is that it highlighted a generational divide. Older fans identified with Ross's seriousness and respect-driven ethos. Younger audiences reveled in DC's comedic dominance. This culture clash transformed what could have been a small conflict into a viral spectacle. And with each passing day, DC Young Fly's influence in the situation grew stronger, while Ross found himself boxed in by the very image he spent years crafting. Rick Ross eventually attempted to regain control by issuing a firmer response, a message meant to re-establish authority. However, this move only deepened the divide. Ross emphasized legacy, respect, and status, but the internet wasn't interested in hierarchy. They were following the energy of the moment, and that energy belonged to DC Young Fly. Social platforms transformed Ross's serious statement into meme templates. Phrases he intended as warnings were remixed into humorous captions. His attempt to win back the narrative only provided more material for creators to spin into comedy. DC didn't even need to respond at first. The internet did it for him. Clips of DC laughing, dancing, or making unrelated jokes were edited into Ross's rebuttals, making it look like DC was mocking him at every turn. Even without lifting a finger, DC continued to dominate the conversation. Meanwhile, people began analyzing Ross's reaction through the lens of image pressure. They pointed out that Ross built an empire on confidence, larger-than-life branding, and the persona of someone who can't be touched. So being caught in a comedic crossfire made him appear more human than he intended. Some experts argued that this actually helped his image, giving fans a more relatable version of Ross. Others felt it weakened the boss figure he spent years cultivating. Industry insiders added another layer by revealing that Ross has always been sensitive to public perception, especially when his credibility is questioned. DC's roast didn't challenge his accomplishments. It challenged the seriousness with which he presents himself. That subtle but powerful distinction is what made the jokes sting. By now, celebrities began reacting publicly. Some sided with Ross, showing solidarity for an OG who paved paths for others. But many more reposted DC's jokes with laughing emojis or commentary about how dangerous comedians can be. When other comedians began chiming in, the situation evolved into something larger than a two-person feud. It became a moment about who controls narrative in entertainment, the rapper with prestige or the comedian with personality. And as the conversation expanded, Ross seemed more boxed in than ever. His final attempt to downplay the drama, posting images of wealth, success, and calmness, didn't quiet the internet. Instead, fans replied with DC memes under every post, refusing to let the feud die. The more Ross tried to move forward, the more the internet brought him right back to the flame. It reached a point where Ross couldn't post anything without someone mentioning lemon pepper jokes or DC roasting his entire lifestyle. Not because fans hated Ross, but because the comedic moment was simply too iconic to let go. For the first time in years, Ross wasn't in control of his own narrative. The internet was. And the internet had crowned DC Young Fly as the winner.
At this stage, many expected DC Young Fly to escalate further, but instead, he switched to a more reflective comedic tone. Still sharp, still entertaining, but with enough finesse to keep the situation from becoming toxic. DC joked about the feud while acknowledging Ross's accomplishments, walking a fine line between humor and respect. This move elevated him even more, showing that he could dominate without crossing into disrespectful territory. Fans applauded the balance. They noted that DC wasn't trying to tear Ross down. He was simply refusing to be intimidated by celebrity weight. Meanwhile, Ross's silence grew louder. After several attempts to dominate the narrative failed, he appeared noticeably less engaged. Some insiders suggested Ross wanted to end the feud quietly to avoid further embarrassment. Others theorized he was regrouping, waiting for the perfect moment to drop a final statement or diss track. But whether he planned a comeback or not, the public perception had already shifted dramatically. Analysts began discussing how this feud might affect Ross's branding moving forward. His image thrives on authority, being the boss in every room. But in this situation, DC Young Fly proved that comedy can strip away any layer of invincibility. Even a mogul can get roasted. Even a multimillionaire can lose a popularity battle. Even a legend can become a meme. This realization sparked discussions across hip-hop channels about whether artists need to adapt to the new rules of virality. Image alone is no longer enough. Public figures must be fluid, self-aware, and willing to laugh at themselves. Those who can't adjust risk becoming the target of online culture, which moves fast and shows no mercy to static egos. DC Young Fly, by contrast, became the face of a new era, an entertainer who uses humor as both shield and sword. His ability to stay composed, witty, and confident throughout the feud earned him enormous respect.
Fans declared him the people's champion. Comedians praised him for representing the art form against rap ego. Even some rappers acknowledged privately that DC had won decisively. In the final stretch of the feud, DC's name surged with new opportunities. More appearances, more collaborations, more influence, more mainstream shine. His victory wasn't just comedic, it was strategic. Ross, meanwhile, was left navigating the aftermath. He didn't lose his empire, his legacy, or his status, but he did lose a round in the culture war. And in the age of social media, sometimes a single round shapes public memory more than a lifetime of wins. The Ross versus DC saga became a permanent reminder. Power doesn't always win. Personality does, confidence does, humor does. By the end of the feud, what stood out most wasn't the jokes, the reactions, or even the viral volume. It was the lesson the entertainment world walked away with. Rick Ross entered the exchange with decades of dominance, an image crafted through music, business, and luxury branding. DC Young Fly entered with nothing but a microphone, authenticity, and comedic instinct. And yet, the comedian walked away with the cultural victory. That shift explains everything about the modern landscape. Social media has changed the rules of influence. The most powerful person in the room is no longer the one with the most money, the most chains, or the most cars. It's the one who can command the crowd in real time. Comedy does that, authenticity does that, relatability does that. DC represented all three. His ability to stand toe-to-toe with a rap mogul showed a new generation that status alone no longer guarantees cultural dominance. Meanwhile, Ross's reactions became a cautionary tale about taking the internet too seriously. Instead of laughing off the jokes and playing along, he tried to assert control. And in doing so, he walked into the exact trap comedy sets for ego-driven figures. Still, Ross's journey through the situation wasn't all negative. Many fans softened toward him once they realized he was genuinely bothered, noting that even icons are human. Some believed the feud humanized Ross in a way no PR team could have engineered. It showed the cracks behind the mansion gates, and sometimes that vulnerability creates more connection than perfection ever could. But the undeniable truth remained. DC Young Fly ran away with the narrative. He proved that you cannot outboss humor, you cannot outflex charisma, and you cannot overpower someone whose weapon is laughter. After the dust settled, the internet crowned him the undisputed winner, turning his jokes into cultural timestamps. Ross eventually moved on, focusing on music, business, and expanding his empire. But fans never forgot the night DC Young Fly turned a mogul into a meme. This entire saga became a cultural case study, not about beef, but about influence. It revealed who holds the real power in the digital age. It proved that the entertainment hierarchy is shifting fast, and it reminded every celebrity watching that the internet has a favorite type of hero, the one who can make people laugh while standing firmly in their truth. And if you've enjoyed this deep breakdown, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more fire celebrity drama, hip-hop insights, and cultural analysis. Your support keeps these deep dives coming.